It's the story about when they inhabit the promised land. And many of you right now, you're just on the border of the promised land of everything that God has promised you. And of course, when they came into the promised land, they saw giants. They were called Nephilim. They were the sons of Anak. And so going into the promised land, you're going to face giants, okay? And I think one of the giants, maybe you haven't seen this before, but one of the biggest giants is really discovering who you are. Who are you? Why are you here? What is your purpose? Because when you go past that giant, the whole promised land is yours. I got that revelation this morning, and there's an interesting verse there in verse 33. And they're recounting the story, and they said, we were in our own eyes. In other words, how we saw ourselves. Today's about your self-concept, how you see yourself. And it says, we were in our own eyes, in our own sight, I guess is what it says in the Amplified. We were in our own sight as grasshoppers. How interesting. These are the sons of God, created in God's image, who have been following God, who have got the promise of a promised land. They're stepping into a promised land. They've got all access to all power. I mean, fire had led them by night, a cloud had led them by day, water had come out of the rock. They've crossed the Red Sea. I mean, so much has happened to get into this promised land. And here they are on the brink of the promised land. And it says that they saw themselves as grasshoppers. And it says, and so we were in their sight. In other words, translation, we saw ourselves as really puny, insignificant, lacking, not having everything we need, not complete, missing, broken, however you want to look at it, as grasshoppers. And because we saw ourselves that way, that's what we put out there. That's how we showed up. That's how we projected ourselves. And guess what? We teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to see us. You're teaching your premier clients how to see you. Is it as a grasshopper, or is it as a son and daughter of the Most High God? That is what God showed me in the shower this morning. Wow. Wow. You can put wow in the chat if that hits you, like it hit me. And so I find it fascinating. I'm going to share a lot of scriptures today, okay? And you may come from any faith background. There's no judgment, there's no expectation. I'm going to share what I've learned from my full heart, what has transformed me. And so I'm going to be sharing from scripture. But here's what I find so fascinating. If you can just be open and listen and see where you fit. I believe that scripture has so many layers. There's historical, there's metaphorical, there's so many layers, right? There's prophetic and all of that. I want you to see yourself in each of these. And I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating that even 5,000 years ago, when many of these verses were written, they were still struggling with the same issues. They were seeing themselves as grasshoppers. So this whole deal isn't new to us.